It was the summer of 2018 when I decided to leave the city behind and retreat to my late aunt's old farmhouse in rural Vermont. The place had been in the family for generations, tucked away at the end of a winding dirt road, surrounded by dense woods that seemed to swallow the light even on clear days. Aunt Eleanor had lived there alone for decades after her husband passed, and she'd always spoken of the house in hushed tones, as if it held secrets she couldn't quite articulate. When she died unexpectedly from a fall down the stairs, the property fell to me, the only relative, without a life too entangled to uproot. I needed the solitude. A recent divorce had left me raw, questioning everything, including my own sanity. The house was a creaking relic, with sagging porches and rooms filled with dust-covered furniture that hadn't been moved in years. I arrived on a muggy afternoon, the air thick with the scent of pine and decay. No neighbors for miles, just the occasional rustle of wildlife in the underbrush. I told myself it was perfect for healing long walks, reading by the fire, no distractions. But from the first night, something felt off. Not dramatic, like in those overblown ghost stories, but subtle, like a whisper you strain to hear. It started with the cold spots. I'd be in the kitchen, brewing tea, and a chill would brush against my neck, as if someone had exhaled just behind me. I'd turn, expecting a draft from the cracked window, but the air would be still. Then came the sounds, faint footsteps pacing the hallway upstairs when I was downstairs reading. At first, I blamed the settling of the old wood, the way houses like this grown with age. But one evening, as dusk filtered through the lace curtains, I heard a soft murmur like a voice muffled through a wall, repeating a single word I couldn't make out. "Hello," I called out, my heart quickening. Silence answered, but the hair on my arms stood on end. I tried to rationalize it. Isolation can play tricks on the mind. Right. I'd read about how loneliness amplifies paranoia, so I busied myself restoring the place. Scrubbing floors, sorting through Eleanor's belongings in the attic. That's where I found the old journal, tucked in a trunk amid yellowed letters. It was hers, from the 1980s. Entries sporadic, but laced with unease. Felt it again last night. One read, "A hand on my shoulder while I slept." Not threatening, but insistent, like it's trying to wake me. Another, objects shifting, teacup on the table one moment, by the sink. The next, am I losing my grip? My aunt had never mentioned this to anyone. She'd been a pragmatic woman, a school teacher who dismissed superstition. Yet here were pages of quiet dread. Nights grew worse. I'd wake in the small hours, the bed frame vibrating faintly beneath me, as if an unseen force was shaking it from below. Not violently, but rhythmically, like a distant tremor. I'd sit up, clutching the sheets, scanning the moonlit room for explanational truck on the road. An animal under the house? Nothing. Once, I felt pressure on the mattress, dipping as though someone had sat at the foot of the bed. I froze, breath shallow, waiting for it to lift. When it did, a shadow flickered in the corner of my eye, a vague outline. Tired tan may dissolve into the darkness before I could focus. I started researching online, huddled under blankets with my laptop's glow. Eyewitness accounts from similar old homes flooded forums. People describing touches in the night, whispers without source, movements that defied logic. One story mirrored Mina woman in a remote New England cabin who felt watched, only to discover through records that a previous owner had died there, alone and forgotten, reaching out in death as they had in life. Was that it? Eleanor's husband had passed in that very bedroom, a heart attack in his sleep. But Eleanor never spoke of hauntings. Her journal hinted at something older, predating them both. The climax came on a stormy night, thunder rumbling like distant artillery. I was in bed, journal in hand, when the shaking started again, this time stronger, the headboard tapping the wall. A whisper cut through the rain. My name, clear and pleading, in a voice that wasn't quite human, laced with static like an old recording. I bolted upright, fumbling for the light. As the bulb flickered on, I saw it, a faint impression on the pillow beside me, as if a head had rested there moments ago. No one was in the room. I fled downstairs, heart pounding, and spent the night in the armchair, listening to the house settle around me. By morning, the storm had passed, and the house felt ordinary again. I packed a bag and drove to town, staying in a motel while I arranged to sell the place. But here's what lingers, what keeps me awake even now. When I returned briefly to collect my things, the journal was open on the kitchen table to a page I hadn't read. "It's not angry," Eleanor had written. "It just doesn't want to be alone." I never found out who or what she meant, and sometimes, in quiet moments, I feel that chill on my neck again, wondering if it followed me. Thanks for listening. If you've ever experienced something like this, let me know in the comments. And if you enjoy stories that explore the unknown, be sure to subscribe for more.